Welcome back to Hasbro's Hide. Moving on to our next scale we're going to look at, and this is this Brifit 50g scale. And it's on Amazon. I think it's about $17 with Amazon Prime shipping included, and got pretty good reviews. And so I thought I'd take a look at it. This one reads to 0.02 grains. So we'll see how stable that is, or whether that's just annoying or not, and hopefully it repeats real well. That's what we're going to be looking at, is the range, variation, and repeatability of our initial weights. And we'll do that study the same way, using a 20g weight and then the same exact RCBS Chargemaster 50g weight. So we'll calibrate it, everything the same with the one weight, and then we'll check all the others and see what happens. But out of the box, it comes pretty nice. It's really well packaged, I think, overall. This is, this was sitting on top of the scale, in fact, protecting it. These were sitting under the scale, which is a really nice feature, actually, because they're soft foam, but they keep the load cell from getting beat up during transport. And that's a big thing. You really do want to protect that load cell, and you'd be surprised how many of these scales do not do that really particularly well. So it comes then with the 50g weight. It comes with a really pretty nice pair of little tweezers for grabbing powder and things like that, so you can grab, real small amounts, and they're not super high quality, but I think they'll be pretty nice, actually. And so we'll check those out as well. Instructions are instructions, pretty basic. The pan, yeah, a little cheapy plastic pan. We won't be using that because it's not really going to be appropriate for reloading. So that's good. It comes with this cover, and this cover will be just used for protecting the scale. It's got this little access window, so you can, I guess the idea would be cutting down on wind and things like that, airflow, messing it up. But you can't get good access to the platen that way, so we won't be using that. But then one thing I did notice is it's already cracked. Okay. And being this is my background, this is actually molded in stress cracking, and so it's not been molded particularly well. Typical high volume cheap plastics. I hate to say cheap plastics because you can make them very well made and strong and designed properly, but yeah, this one maybe not so much because it's cracking already, and you can see there's what we call sink or distortion through the thickness of this part. So not properly molded. I think the design's probably okay, but not so well molded. But at any rate, we'll use it just as a protective cover when we put the scale away. So we'll let this thing warm up. One thing that's a little annoying, but it's no different than the other cheap scales, is it times out after 180 seconds, so 3 minutes, it times out, and so you have to keep doing it. When you're in the flow of reloading, not a big deal, but it's a little cool up here in the hide today, and so it's going to take a longer time to warm up. So I'll keep hitting this, and we'll let it warm up for 25-30 minutes, and then we'll start our study. All right, now we're going to calibrate the scale. And it's been on for a few minutes, and we'll go ahead and just do the calibration procedure on it. So on this scale, it tells you need to put the weight in the center of the platen. Common amongst these, especially the ones I think you see the round platens on, they'll be more sensitive to getting off center of that load cell. And so that's what we'll do. But the first thing you do is press and hold down the unit button, and it'll come into the calibration mode, and then it'll tell you 50 grams. So put 50 grams right in the middle. And then it comes back and tells you it passes at 50 grams. And so this is where you really need to go back and forth and check a few times. See if it comes back up. It came right back to 0. And this is the 200ths of a gram, or well, 200ths of a grain, but a thousandths of a gram. And so it's repeating pretty well. So let's check the weight that came with it. That's good. So that means our weights agree. Now they don't always, and so that's one reason I do that. Some of the other cheaper scales I found this to be slightly off. Now does it matter? Well, depends on what your target is. But so that one weighs, comes in, you can see exactly at 50 grams too. So we can have some confidence using that. So anyway, so we've done our calibration, we've done our check, our initial check. We're going to continue to let it warm up just a bit. It's only been 10 minutes or so. So we're going to continue to let it warm up and stabilize, and then we'll do our study. Alright, now we waited long enough, it should be warmed up. I think in the last segment I had said it was a 20g weight. Our first one is actually a 10g weight, and that comes with the new Calux scale. And so we're going to use this as a low-end test of the sensitivity of the scale down at the bottom end. So that's a 10g test, and the first one is 10 exactly. So we'll take it back off, turn going to keep it right in the center, and we get 10 again. So we'll keep repeating this. So far, looking really good. Right, 10 is stable again. First 5 are all perfect. That's number 8. Number 9. And finally number 10. So that's really encouraging. So that's a good indication there on our first one. But our other scales did okay, generally at the lower end. So now let's try our 50 gram weight. Had to hunt a little bit, searching a little more, but 50 grams on the nose. Let's do it again. $50 grams on the nose. Again, so that's 3 in a row, stabilizes at 50. Good, at 50 again. That was 4. There's 5 in a row at 50. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. So that's really encouraging. So 10 in a row at 50. Now you just notice the only thing it did, it had to work a little bit more. It was hunting, stabilizing, trying to get everything just right. But it came back and repeated every time at 50. So that's good. So now let's put our pan on here. This is the heaviest pan I have. It's what we used for the other study. So we'll tear it out. And now we do the same test with the 50 gram, but with the pan. Now the intent of this one is to get it off the dead zero of the scale, because a lot of these scales are really set up to optimize somewhere around their, what they say in their limit of their box, 50 grams. But it means the low end and the high end won't necessarily be accurate, but this is good. So we give it a little bit of weight. It was accurate at with nothing on the platen, which is really good. And so with a little bit more weight on there, it still comes up with 50 grams on our first try. So let's continue this again. It's 2 at 50. 3, again I had to hunt a little bit, it wasn't quite sure there. Spun my pan around, I don't know if that'll change or not, we'll find out. 4 at 50. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. That's excellent. So none of the other scales in our previous test was able to do that there. So both in range, they got the right value, and they repeated the same value every time. And so this is a really good result on this. So we'll check out one other thing here. Okay, here's the other thing I want to check. This is a 50 gram scale, it says. So that means the max weight it's designed for is 50 grams. Now with this being 7 grams over, I believe it was, 7 and change, I'll double check here. Yeah, almost 8 grams, 7.932 grams and over. It was still able to weigh, well, now it's not going to do it. Oh, I need to tear this. And then do it again. Then maybe it'll do that. Yeah, so you can see it's just over 50 grams is where it thinks it has a problem. It doesn't want to measure anything much over 50 grams, because what I was doing to test this is you can see there it actually weighed 57.9 grams and change, but I was putting 10 on and putting another 50 on, and it gives you overload. So as you approach numerically, its software must know when you get above that certain limit, well then it's not going to be okay, because I would suspect if I put this on here and zero it out and then come back and put this on here, yeah, it's going to measure it. So it's in the software of the scale to say when you get much over 50 grams, it's going to kick you out and say overload, because the load cell is only rated for so much force. And so that's fine. It'll work just fine on this with this pan. Tear the pan out here, and then you'll see it'll weigh 50 grams again right on the nose. And so that's good. Now, what does that mean to us in reloading terms? Well, let's turn it over into grains. It means in practicality, you can't load more than 700. You can't measure more than 771 grains on this scale. So unless you're going to shoot BMG, 50 BMGs or something like that, the scale weight and load should be just fine for what we need. So anyway, I thought you might like to see this, because so far this scale is it's impressing me. It's really good. Exact opposite. This one should have been that good, and it clearly is not. So maybe this Reloader Marksman scale here, I just got a bad one, and I'll send it back. I think is what I'm going to do with it. And ask for a replacement, and we'll see, because like I say, I saw this on both these scales on Johnny's reloading bench, and he had really good remarks about both of these, but especially this one, and you could see in his videos it was performing really well. So I think I just have one that is not so good. And like I say, when you see how this load cell was packaged with that foam underneath here, this one wasn't, and so maybe it could have got damaged in shipping. It's hard to say. Not that it's not decently packaged, but not the load cell. There was nothing underneath this platen to hold it up. So anyway, good results. We'll move on then, and we're going to actually start doing some loads and load development using this scale compared to our new Calux, which we already showed is performing very well. Again, the one difference though between these two, this one, well, two differences really. This one reads to 2/100ths of a grain, and so that's good. So if it repeats, and it seems to be repeating so far, we'll check when we get into grains and really small numbers. I expect to see it plus or minus 2/100ths or 400, something in that range, because that's a really, really tiny amount of weight. You're talking literally 1 grain kind of thing, and the smaller powders can change that much. But the other thing it does is, like say, it'll shut off in 180 seconds. Whereas this one, you can take it and program it not to do that. And so that's fine. It's just something we'll live with on this scale. I'll be happy to live with that. I lived with it before if it's stable, accurate, and repeats.